So, um, on the way here, I was driving in and I saw a bumper sticker said "Be yourself," and then there was some scripts, some under. Um, I'm not quite sure the organization of what it was promoting, but that's the first thing that came to my sight, and it was in red, and it was pretty out, you know, and I kind of smiled because that's what we um, do when we're walking this earth, right? Is we try to be ourselves as much as we can. And therein lies some of the problem, because that suggests that we are not always ourselves. So to be ourselves, we have to remind ourselves to do that. Which was kind of an ironic thing, driving here, seeing that, and I was thinking, my gosh, that it was the topic kind of I was talking about here. So this book, An Invitation to Practice, done by Albert Lowe, is really good. And if you're a Zen enthusiast, I definitely would recommend it. The reason why I like this is because it's so easy to, he is able to word things in a way that is very understandable, and then you're made to think, and then it gets confusing. Well, at least for me anyway, because it makes you think. So he talks about changing ourselves, which I that it was a perfect bumper sticker to see this morning. So, and before I begin that, I want to let you know that last week I was in the Alleghenies in Pennsylvania, and I had the opportunity to go to some caving and saw falling water. But I wanted to touch a little bit on this caving expedition, or tour, basically, because this cave has been well established. It's very safe, and the tour brings you down to 17 stories underground, and then you could also go on an expedition for 40 stories underground. But it requires a little more setup. So we just decided to go down to 17 stories. Anyway, the one thing that I noticed as I was going down this is that there was a lot of talking going on with the people going, which is understandable because it was new and exciting. And there was the owner of this cave had lighting in it, obviously, so you don't stumble and trip over things. But there was also unique lighting in that he wanted to show the spectrum of colors and what that would look like in the cave, and also as a way to dynamically show the cave to you, so you experience the cave in a little different light. And that was fabulous, right? There's this one particular part where you get down, and it was near the bottom of that leg that we were on, and there was an actual, uh, so the ceiling has these crevices, and there's and there are long cracks, and apparently that's how cavers know and where to go and how to follow, and where this uh, um, where the kind of the trail leads, these kind of cracks above them. You'd think it would be scary, but they kind of depend on these things. Um, and there was an actual waterfall in the cave, so the groundwater and or rainwater, and over time the the water would find, and there was a waterfall down there, and they had it lit up in such a spectacular way. And what I ended up doing was I stayed uh, longer than the tour. So I let everybody go because I wanted to experience it with nothing going on except being there. So I stayed there for about 15 minutes, just experiencing this. And it was beautiful. Hearing that water hit the rocks for all the millennia that it had probably been doing that, right? Same thing, the dripping water. When I was coming back up, I thought, wow, that was just amazing. However, it was very human. And I wanted, because, because of the effort to change the environment. Now, what was that effort? It was adding these lights, adding these colorful lights down there that made it so beautiful. I'm so not discounting how beautiful and wonderful it was. And obviously, we had to see where we were going. So the regular incandescent lights that were down there were, but the point being is it was spectacular enough if there was no lights, or if there was just a typical light. And that's what I mean by we are always adding, 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 adding to the wonder of the experience. And if we can reduce that adding, 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 then there's something usually much more simple and much more attainable. And even my words are getting in the way because I'm using words like much more. Like I can't describe it without mucking it up. But so changing the environment, changing our environment, changing our home, change, adding to the process. Being ourselves. And that kind of leads me into this other part that's very personal, you can say, very personal. Because we try and constantly change ourselves. We change the environment and we change ourselves. And we work to find that self to change. And this book poignantly it's just so perfect, the way he writes this. So, and I'm just going to read a little bit here. Closely allied to the misconception about changing environments is another, that we must change ourselves. Some of us are convinced that we are unpleasant people, perhaps too hostile or even too timid. Others feel guilty to some past sins for what they must atone by becoming different people in the future. Still, others feel that they must overcome laziness. Most of us share the belief that something about ourselves is wrong and must be put right. And that this putting right can be accomplished either by getting rid of the offending trait, as though it could be plucked out and flung into the wind, or by the opposite of what we've been doing for years. And when we move from this be yourself, that's what we're doing. Be yourself. Just be yourself. Because we're trying to define the yourselfness in that. What is myself? And in Zen, and the thing that I love about the practice is that it really works hard at cutting through that narrative. And it's something that I feel for myself personally is so important and is an akin to a calling in some ways. I don't know the proper verbiage, but it is a calling. Because even when we're changing ourselves, or changing the environment, there might be a little flavor. It's just not quite getting it right. Just something, just, if I could just find that spot, that still point, right? Then I was driving down Woodward on the way here, and there's this new company, this new building that is there, and it's a new business. And I noticed in the windows it had beautiful new computers, and it had an exercise area. It had an exercise area where in the bicycles were facing the surrounding Woodward and the other buildings, and you can see I'm sure, Dream Cruise is going to be great. Well, we can see how, in my thinking anyway, that even culturally we're constantly working to change ourselves, because you can work at this facility, and not only can you be productive, but then you can change yourself for the better here too, whatever that looks like. So it's everywhere. He says here, however, the notion that we can make up our minds and to change ourselves for the better, to get rid of this or that undesirable trait is suspect. This does not mean that we cannot change for the better. It simply means we may not be able to select beforehand those aspects that we consider undesirable and then start eliminating them. The personality of a person is like a landscape with hills, valleys, bogs, and meadows, marshlands, and gardens. It is an ecological whole. To change one part means that we all are changed, for each part is interdependent with all others. To use another metaphor, each person has his or her own light, and along with that light goes with shadow. To eliminate the shadow, we must put out the light. that's the effort that's behind the effort. Creating the be yourself, the creating the change. What he's saying is that when we put out the light, to put out the shadow, we put out the light, creating the whole. If we put out if we want to get rid of the shadow side, then we have to put out the light side. So we put it out. Then what's left? The whole. It's not a bad thing. It's not pessimistic. It's quite beautiful. And what is that whole? Is that whole yourself? Well, I would suggest the bumper sticker could say, not be yourself, be, or just be. But I like be, be. That's it. Because that cave and that beautiful waterfall was just that, be. And it was beautiful just as it was. It didn't need more light. It didn't need the colorful spectrum. It didn't need that, right? We added to it to make it that much more rich. And we're the same way. We cut through this idea of myself, ourselves. So some of my practice, when I get stressed, and I do a lot, is what is it just to be? Be. And let all of the light and shadow fall away. And there you'll find your still point. Along with that dripping water. So thank you.